A huge shout out to the overthinkers.
An overthinker. He watches the show.
To the overthinkers, shout out Buffet too.
All about faith to this is Parker, yeah. Thank you, overthinkers.
Keep inspiring the next generation.
Shout out to the overthinkers. Thando kuphela. Much love.
To my overthinkers, mamela ubuchopho ngeke buphume buyakhula nizinja nikhokho yazini as overthink siya overachieve.
I'm stealing that. I've stolen that one. I've stolen it.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the show. My name, of course, is George Mokwena. I am your host, and this, of course, is the Overthinking Football Show. Now, I'm serving a little bit of a TikTok suspension. TikTok has decided that my stuff looks so good that they have to just think that I'm streaming from somewhere else. I'm in the middle of an appeal on TikTok, so today we're going to be kicking it old school on YouTube. Old school in the sense that when the show started, I used to be one man screaming into a phone, and it grew into this where we have fan engagement. But unfortunately today, we're not going to have that sort of engagement, but I will be monitoring via the comments who is here, what they're saying, all of that stuff, and we can still have a very good time. Last night, we watched the Mamelodi Sundowns versus Sekhukhune. But before I get into that, please remember that the normal show is on Monday to Thursday, 7 p.m., Fridays at 12:30 in the afternoon. If we do have watch-alongs of the big three, Mamelodi Sundowns, Pirates and Chiefs, we are covering those games, as well as, the national team duty for Banyana Banyana and Bafana, and any other special interest games like Banyana Bastide playing in the Champions League. We covered that too. So please, if you will do me the favor of subscribing and carry on watching the show. And if you want to watch any of the previous ones, they are available in full on YouTube, in full. I do other content, so please support me there too. Today we're going to be speaking about, like I said, Mamelodi Sundowns versus Sekhukhune United. It was Mamelodi Sundowns' 22nd game in the league. 22nd game in the league. But it doesn't feel like they haven't played that many games because every 3 days is a Sundowns game. And they came up against Sekhukhune United, who was on form for a while, came into this game with 3 wins and 2 draws, their last game being a win versus Cape Town Spurs. Mamelodi Sundowns, their last game was versus ES Tunis, or Esperance, as older people know it. They lost 1-0 in the first leg of their semi-final CAF Champions League clash. They're going to be playing again on Friday. So, as expected, Sundowns, having played so many games, at some point they needed to rotate and change players. Now, we had seen it before when they played in the previous round versus Young Africans, that the game right before they play in the Champions League, they tend to make a lot of changes. And they did exactly that in this game. Dennis Onyango coming into goal. When last did we see Dennis Onyango? Of course, later on got injured and had to come off. Mabue, Brian Onyango, Lebosa Kutsia, Nkuma Ema, Kulisi Morena, Matthews, and Mendieta. On the bench was February, Mashego, Siabi, Mbule, Nkosi, Buthelezi, Mabena, Esquivel, and Cirino. Sekhukhune side, they had Sangare in goal, Bafana International Mobi with Tshwane, Chibabwa, Cardoso Mchali, Mokwena, Weber Mtambo, Linda Mtambo, Captain Fantastic, Mkize, and Mngube as the starting lineup for Sekhukhune United. In the 5 games before this, Mamelodi Sundowns had won 4 of those games, drawing only 1. And they weren't going to lose this one, coming away with a 2-1 win versus Sekhukhune. Now, to break down the game, Sundowns started very well. Sundowns started like a house on fire, scoring 2 goals within 10 minutes. First goal came in 1 minute in through Tash Matthews after a fast attack that caught Sekhukhune sleeping. We always talk about critical times in a game. Critical times, first 5 minutes, 5 minutes before halftime, 5 minutes after halftime, and the last 5 minutes of the game. Those are critical times when teams are still getting acclimatized. And Sekhukhune was no different, conceding that 1 goal, and then conceding the second goal that came from Umorena. They did, however, manage to come back in the 50th minute through a penalty by Ohizu. Now, Kumo, welcome. Now, this is where I struggle with PSL teams. This is where I struggle. PSL teams are so afraid of Mamelodi Sundowns that you see them get to a game and they switch off. They get to a game, they throw in the towel, they roll over, and they go, you know what, we're playing versus Mamelodi Sundowns. It's the best team in the country. Guys, we can take one for the team today. We don't have to worry about losing 3 points. Let's just try survive. If you watch Sekhukhune United play in the past few games that they've been playing, and especially in the run that they've had that put them number 4, Sekhukhune is a vibrant attacking team. Sekhukhune is a pound-for-pound type of team that go out and hit, they hit the tracks running. Linda Mtambo has found a new life there as the striker of Sekhukhune, whereas he usually played number 10, he usually played in the midfield. But you watch this Sekhukhune team coming there and act as though there were deers in the headlights, not necessarily knowing what they are meant to be doing in this game. They didn't know how to attack Sundowns. They didn't know what to do. You could tell that part of what they were told going into this game was that you guys would need to defend. And it's only after half-time, after going 2-0 down, do these teams like Sekhukhune finally wake up, finally realize that maybe the boogeyman is not necessarily the boogeyman like that, and they start playing. Finally, they make it into the game and decide that we can actually attack and have some joy. I've said many times here that Mamelodi Sundowns is not the best defensive team. They're not the best defensive team, especially against transition. This team had Mabua, Onyango, Libusa, and Kutsia as their starting backs. A team that has not played together. These guys have no rhythm. We know that Brian Onyango is prone to make mistakes. We know that Kutsia hasn't seen game time in a very long time. He's been injured. So he's going to be rusty. He's going to be a little bit slow. He might be restricted, as we saw by Mamelodi Sundowns, not necessarily doing exactly what he wanted, what he normally does in the Kutsia role, right? So if there was ever a time for somebody to try get a point or try get a win versus Sundowns, it had to be this game. And this team did not show up until the second half. I said in the beginning that this is a story of PSL teams when they go play Mamelodi Sundowns. First half, they don't know what to do. Amazulu goes 1-0 down. They come back firing second half. They look incredible. They play to how they play. Abo Polokwane, Abo Chiefs, Abo Cape Town City, they play when they realize that there's something there, that you can get something from this game. But by that time, it's already way too late. Sundowns has taken the lead and they've gone. Sundowns this season has been playing a first half game where they win in the first half and rest for the second half, partly because of the schedule, but also because a lot of teams are not going to attack them. But every time they've been attacked, they've shown that there's chinks in the armor. And it doesn't mean that you're going to win, but at least be honest when you go and play this game. This Sundowns team was a very balanced Sundowns team. For all of the new people, it was very balanced. And they showed an ability to play how Sundowns had played at the beginning of the season. They showed that they can be confident going down the middle. They can combine down the middle, and they can make things happen in central areas, right? That is one of the things that is incredible about this Sundowns team that was put out yesterday. The so-called A team has not been clicking as well as they have previously in the season, and they've been resorting to playing balls wide. Their spacing has been very weird in terms of how close you are with other players. Lodge will often be on an island. The midfielders will often be on an island. Tshwane will maybe not get the ball when they're playing the way that they've been playing. But this team showed that there still is that bit of that Sundowns from the beginning of the season that maybe won't dominate you and hit 700 passes. They only managed to get 379. They're not going to dominate you like that, but you have to be wary of Tash's speed. You have to be wary of Morena. You have to be wary of Mendieta. This is what I was talking about early on in the season, or not early on in the season, a couple of months ago, when we spoke about the idea of how Sundowns should rotate. And I literally said, for me, you split this team into two. You have the first team and a second team. The second team plays PSL games. The second team is there for if you need to bring somebody back into the first team, you put them there. If you need to rest during the week, you put them there. It takes the emphasis and the fatigue off of the first team. And the nice thing about having a first and second team at Sundowns is that they have a unique situation in Mamelodi Sundowns. A very unique situation that most teams don't have. They get to play high quality games week in and week out, day in and day out, every 3 days. So this would give the guys who are on the bench a chance to play and get up their form. You wouldn't need to experiment that much with the first team, because I think that Mamelodi Sundowns' first team is struggling from too much tinkering, they too much changing, trying to fit players in. Lodge has to come in, and Lodge is not necessarily up to par yet. Masego comes in, is not necessarily up to par. You miss Kutsia, you bring in a Zungu, Zungu gets injured, you have to play an Obas who's also not very comfortable in those positions. This gives you a chance to give the other guys a run and make sure that they are warm. Make sure that they're ready if called upon to be in the first team. And I think it would be so good for the fatigue factor of Sundowns. Remember, Mamelodi Sundowns played in Tunisia. It's 11 hours, according to Sundowns. It's 11 hours from here to get to Tunisia. It's 11 hours back. They played on the Saturday, if I'm not mistaken. Was it Thursday? They played on Saturday, right? Had to fly back, have recovery sessions at Tlorkop while in the middle of the night. People are making fun of Chiefs because Chiefs are training up souk. In the middle of the night, Sundowns had to come back and have rejuvenation sessions and maybe squeeze in some video sessions. You don't have time to do all of these things because Tuesday you are playing. You can't go hard on Monday. So why not, as the Heat did right now, rest the first team guys. Let them sit and have a week and play these secondary guys. Another question I had when I saw how Sundowns had set up, one of the things that piqued my interest when I saw how Sundowns had set up. Are we starting to see maybe some of the issues that we thought were not issues at the beginning of the season when everything was going well, and a combination of playing really strong opposition in the Champions League, playing a really strong Champions League game and getting to the business end of the season? Are we starting to see some of those things? I'll give you an example. Uloch plays a lot of the games for the first team. Uloch is a Rulani signing. Lodge has had patches where he's played very well, but you can tell that there might be a rushing to try to get him into the team. There might be, they're not taking as much time to let him acclimatize to this game, let him acclimatize to this team. And you can tell that this is a Rulani signing that he has brought into the team, and he feels compelled to play this player. You can tell that there's a lot of players in that team that maybe there's a little bit of favoritism that's starting to creep in. Sundowns fans often point to Sirino, who's had some wonderful appearances for Mamelodi Sundowns, who has a history, who understands what it takes to play at this stage of the season. He's a seasoned Sundowns player who would be an asset at this time of the season, right? You'd imagine. So not seeing Sirino in maybe makes you question some of why he's not playing. You look at Mendieta. Mendieta may not have clicked as well as we thought he would with the Sundowns team, but he's had some cameo appearances where, frankly, he's saved the team quite a few times. Surely that warrants at least a place on the bench. You look at Tashreeq Matthews. Utash does what Masego can't do. And it's not to say Masego is not a good player. It's not to say that Masego is not a player that can make a difference. He is the African Football League. He is the African Football League MVP for a reason. But then you get to questioning if we know his weaknesses and we know what he does on a game-to-game basis, we know how he plays, we know that he's got a tendency to want to turn left all the time, to hit that left, 1, 2, 3, 4 step over, then hit that left turn. If we know it, surely the top teams in Africa will look at it and go, we can plan for that one. But here comes Tash. He comes into the game, he plays a square ball for the Morena goal, the second goal. He plays the square ball where Morena can get the ball and put it into the corner. He then, at some point, beats his defender and plays the ball in behind the defender in front of the goalkeeper. He shows the variation that we are asking for from Umasego, right? And I think Umasego is, again, it might be a situation where this was a player that Rulani asked for. This is a player that performed. But is it good to throw him into the pot when it's hot? Is it good to throw him into the pot when you're playing a semi-final? Do you not go to the experience of Cirino? Do you not look at Mendieta? And if you do want to play a wild card player, you then bring in Matthews, right? What do some of these players have to do in order to get a look into that first team, even from the bench? Now, to give Rulani credit, I've often said that having a big squad doesn't mean that you're going to do well. Having a big squad doesn't mean that, all of your questions are answered. Having a big squad sometimes means that you have more questions. And maybe Rulani's favoritism is not necessarily favoritism. Maybe it's, these are the tried and tested guys. I don't have the luxury of time that I've had before where I can sit down with a player and coach him and get the best out of him. Maybe I lean on a Lodge who I understand from a Pirates. Maybe I lean on a Masego who was in my plans. Maybe I don't rotate as much when we go into certain games. Most of this season, he hasn't rotated that much. It could be that. And now the only reason that he rotated this team comes down to him having to be forced to rest some of the players. But maybe it's also exposing that Sundowns tactically, maybe the chameleon is tired on the other side. Maybe the chameleon works with these players who are fresh. Maybe this works with the players who are hungry. Maybe it works when you have the archetypes and the roles that you normally have. I made a point here to speak about how the first team hasn't been playing the way the first team needs to play. But the advantage of this team that played versus Sekhukhune is that you have the archetypes, the roles that Rulani used at the beginning of the season when everything was looking great. The Kutsia role, I learned, is called the libero in world football. He hasn't had the luxury of having that type of player in the starting lineup. Kutsia is barely available because of injury, the most unluckiest player in that team, right? He then kind of got Zungu to play a version of it, more register than libero. He got Zungu to play a version of it, but then Zungu went out injured, right? And to explain what the Kutsia role is, Sundowns cheats, I say. Sundowns cheats, and they play extra midfielders or midfield capable players all across that back line. So you'll usually have two out and out defenders. In this case, you have Onyango, you have Libusa. They are there to defend. They don't have the technical ability to be able to play the ball out. But then he hides them by having Kutsia come in. So we call it the Kutsia role. It's a libero. A libero is a defender, or he's a defender that plays midfield roles. So it's a defender that plays CDM and can progress the ball up. So he plays Kutsia there. And it usually works a lot with Williams because Williams now has a first pass when he's coming out. So when they're playing the ball out from the back, he has someone right there in front of him that is very comfortable with the ball and can be the first pass and the first phase of the build-up. But also, when they're defending, he can also do defensive duties and often slots into the center of that 2 and it becomes a 3, right? But what Sundowns does is, Coetzee not only does that, he also plays support to the midfield with the mokwena. Once he gets into the midfield, he's got the ball, he plays the ball up, he goes into what I like to call a bodyguard position. And the bodyguard position means that Mokwena's on this side, Coetzee is on this side. You'll often find Allende sweeping back behind them to play a deep-lying playmaker role, similar to what I was saying, a regista, which is a deep-lying playmaker. Or you'll have Mudiba slot into that role. And those guys provide the next phase, and then the last phase to get it to Zwane is played by those two. So Allende then is able to get the ball and play the ball to Zwane without having to play defensively or have to look out for defensive issues. And should he lose the ball, you have a Coetzee, you have a Mokwena who can win the ball back. So this team could progress up the middle in this game versus Sekhukhune because Coetzee is there. Now, Coetzee did play a diminished role in this one, but it shows you how important his role is, and it also shows you how important Mokwena's role is. Mokwena is not a player that can progress the ball, or a midfielder that you give the ball and he turns and he plays the pass. Mokwena kiporikat, win the ball back, play the simple ball, do the dirty work essentially within that midfield. Mamelodi Sundowns. So they cheat, like I said. Coetzee is there, you have Mudiba there, you have Mokwena there, you have Zwane there, you have Allende there. So essentially you've got a 5-man midfield when you play that. And that is what we saw in this game. Because Mkhulise could play the Allende role and be a little bit more free. Mkhulise has struggled some games where he's been asked to do more than normal. Allende has struggled in some games where he's been asked to do more than normal. You'll see Allende dropping back. If you saw the goal that ES Tunis scored, right? Esperance scored. You'll notice that Allende was playing the Coetzee role of being the third center back, the central center back in a 3. And that's why when the ball was played in, because Allende is not used to that, the man behind him beat him. These two are used to having a man in between. And when the ball was played past Ronan Williams, first man to the ball was Allende. He doesn't normally do that. So Mkhulise was suffering from a similar thing when he was starting, where he would need to take up some of the defensive midfield responsibilities, right? But now, because you have Coetzee and because you have that little bit of control, he was free to go forward. He was free to receive the ball from the midfield a lot quicker without having to drop all the way back. Umshishi is struggling in the first team because he has to go all the way back. He has to almost play an 8 rather than a 10. So now you diminish him because he's now having to do that and pick up Allende's role and pick up Coetzee's role while Allende's playing at the back. And then they do that thing where now the ball is also not being progressed up, so he can't get the ball, and he's stuck in that situation where he's not sure what to do. Then on top of that, they're crossing the ball now. All of a sudden, Mamelodi Sundowns, they're going wide. They're looking for opportunities wide, which means that you're starving the player that's going to be a number 10. Think about Kaizer Chiefs. If you play number 10 at Kaizer Chiefs, you are starved of the ball because nobody can progress it from the back, but also when they do get to the front, they choose to go wide. So, Mkhulise looked incredible in this game because of that. The front three looked incredible because none of them were doing something that is out of the realm of their abilities. So if you think about it, again, what is strangling the first team is that Chalulile is on the bench, so you don't have a focal point. Ribeiro likes to play the ball. He wants the ball at his feet. He wants to play 1-2s. He wants to do those type of things. But because you are now crossing the ball, you are getting rid of him, and he can't combine with anybody. Lodge, a player who's very good with the ball at his feet, finds himself out wide on the left-hand side, out wide, right? And nobody's there to combine with him. But what we saw in this team that played versus Sekhukhune is that those three players right, could be more compact. And because they were receiving the ball centrally, Tashreeq, his impact doesn't come from all the way wide the corner. It comes from just inside that big box, which means that the passes that he plays to Abo Morena are right here. And it didn't help that Sekhukhune was committing their left and right backs all the way up and leaving two most of the time, but maybe three, versus a very fast Mamelodi Sundowns front three. I think Mamelodi Sundowns front three's strengths in this game was you create chaos, and because the players don't know where to go, Morena is now free within the box. Tashreeq Matthews can play a simple square pass to Morena within the box. When they're chasing back, when we're all running back and the ball comes out, first goal, now you have 2 or 3 Sundowns players just chilling at the top of the box waiting to knock it in, right? And that is something that the first team honestly is missing. And I think that is the answer. That is Mamelodi Sundowns' answer to the low block issue. Everybody's complaining about a low block. Everybody has figured out that, you know, when you play Mamelodi Sundowns, it's about damage control more than it is about being dangerous. So a lot of them will go back and they'll go back 5. They'll have 5 defenders with a 4 in front of them, and then a 1 who's acting like they're gonna go and attack, right? And what Mamelodi Sundowns has been trying to do up to this game to break down those low blockish type games is that they've been going wide. So they've been trying to stretch the defense and then maybe put in a cross. But again, if you don't have Shalulile, or Shalulile is not on par, you're asking your front players to do so much work. So much work. I have to, firstly, beat the defender that's standing there. I have to get my head to the ball, number 2. Or if we play that ball into the space in between the goalkeeper and the defender, it has to be the most pinpoint perfect pass that's going to meet the most pinpoint perfect run. Otherwise, that line of defense is going to get it, or the goalkeeper is just going to sweep and get it, right? And take the ball and move it out. But I think that movement is what Sundowns does best. And they've forgotten that it's that movement that unlocks the defenses. It's that movement. There were some moves that they did versus Young Africans, if I'm not mistaken, where Young Africans was in the low block, and then they would play the ball out. You'd see Ribeiro getting the 1-2, and on 2 occasions, he freed up Mayema within the box because of the quick 1-2s and then ball across the box. Mayema messed up a couple of them. It was Mayema and Morena, or Mayema or Morena, one of the two, would mess it up, right? You look now, bang, bang, bang. There's now spaces in the box. They hit them in that game, right? They hit them during those moments. That, I think, is the antidote to these low block teams and to what these low block teams are doing to Sundowns when Sundowns goes to go play them. I think Umshishi is lost. I think Umshishi, Ribeiro and Shalulile were incredible at the beginning of the season because Umshishi had someone to play with Ribeiro, right? You overloaded that midfield. You had the good zeros. You had all that stuff. Shishi didn't have that much responsibility. He could play with Ribeiro. Ribeiro gets free. He scores. But now they had the slower build-up and this other game where they're passing the ball around and they're taking their time. And by the time they reach that other side, it's low block time. And by the time you cross the ball, who are you crossing to? How many headed goals does Mshishi have? How many headed goals does Ribeiro have, right? So I think what this game showed, and maybe it highlighted, was that this is the Sundowns game. And Sundowns has moved so far away from their game in the last few games, be it because of fatigue, be it because of the lack of personnel, be it because of a ton of different reasons. They've moved so far away from it that this might have been the reminder that they needed to say, guys, this is how Sundowns plays. And I'm hoping that Gutsia can be fit enough to at least make a cameo versus Esperance. I think they're going to need that type of player. And because they don't have Zungu, you're going to need somebody who can, you know, be that outlet for Williams when they play out. Because we saw what Mvala was doing. We saw what Mvala was doing when he was getting the ball. We saw what Mvala was doing when times are tough and you have to play the ball out. And he was getting the ball and he was doing this and that. We saw Onyango do a similar thing. But now, if Williams can have Gutsia there, I think it changes the Esperance game. And I think they can overwhelm Esperance to the point that they win that game. If they don't, Esperance could probably hold on for a while. Could hold on for a while versus Sundowns. And as you know, pressure tends to lean back onto Sundowns, right? It tends to go back into Sundowns as the game progresses, because hey, those fans, which I think I'm going to transition to words that were uttered by Coach Rulani. There were a couple of things that were said by Coach Rulani, but because I mentioned the fans, I'm going to start there. Sundowns fans were booing Onyango, Brian Onyango, who is, we know he is prone to mistakes. We know that he's prone to doing things wrong and maybe getting positionally exposed. He's not the fastest player and all of that stuff. And Sekhukhune at times was showing that there's a bit of a weakness on that side, also with playing out the ball. And coach was pleading with Mamelodi Sundowns fans. He pleaded with Mamelodi Sundowns fans that, guys, can you please support the players? Can you please play the role that supporters play? You are meant to be there, especially at home, to be there to give the team that little extra power, the 12th man power. But yet what you find at Mamelodi Sundowns quite a lot is when games are not going their way, they start getting jittery. They start getting nervous. I've heard from the guys who usually join the show, I've heard from them that, you know, at Loftus, there comes a time where fans are shouting at players, where fans are booing players, where you can feel a nervousness within Loftus. And, you know, this team, the Sundowns, in their previous game, they played the Swallows, and Swallows was able to come back to a 2-2. They played the Ducks. Ducks was able to give them some trouble. Cape Town Spurs was able to give them some trouble, even though they won that game 1-0. We know Yanga had some stuff. So for the past few games, I think the pressure has been building over and above the fact that Sundowns is in that part of the season where the moments are heavy, where results follow you. So you play poorly versus Mamelodi, or you play poorly versus Swallows, and it follows you into the next game where now you're 2-0 up, but you're under the cosh. The other team is attacking. The other team is hitting you. The other team is trying. The other team is free, right? And you start thinking thoughts of, could this be the Swallows game? Could this be the Yanga game where Yanga was hitting crossbars? Could this be a point in our season as a team that could start creating momentum? Rulani always says that losses call friends. Losses are very friendly. They call friends. One loss is not happy being alone. They try and get other losses to come in. I would say that draws are the same, especially the type of draws. If you collapse towards the end of the season, he calls it suffering. If you collapse towards the end of the games and all of that stuff, it can become a habit. And where fans are important at these moments, fans have to play the role where we must uplift you. We must uplift you. We must make a noise. We must sing. We must get loud to intimidate the other team, but also to wake up our own team. But if fans are going to be nervous, during these games, if fans are going to come out and, you can feel the nervousness, the awkwardness. I could feel it on live. I could feel it. The second half, I had opened up and I said, guys, let's talk. People were not jumping in. People were sitting back because, for lack of a better term, they were sitting like this. For those who know what I'm talking about, they were sitting like this, right? And that nervousness penetrates the team. And I'd like to implore Mamelodi Sundowns fans to remember where you are at this current point of the season. This is the money end. It's not game 5, game 6, game 7. This is where even the technical staff and the players are starting to have those dark thoughts. Oh, it's the semi-final of the Champions League. Oh, what if it ends the way that it did versus we did last season, where we were 2-0 up and we lost it at the end of the season? How are we going to play that? Tactically, we played an open game versus we did. How do we play versus ES Tunis? Do we go into the second leg with supreme confidence as we did when we played we did last season at Loftus? Do we go to the second leg versus ES Tunis and we play the diamond or whatever? Rulani says he's tired. Rulani says that, he has to watch 8 games of things. He leaves clock up at 2 a.m. in the morning and has to go back for practice at 7 or 8, right? He doesn't have the time to lay down the things. We've seen substitutions of his, teka-teki in the Esperance game. You can tell that there's a bit of overthinking. You can tell that, overthinking. You can tell that there's a bit of a caution. There's a bit of confusion at times that is born from this pressure. The last thing that you need is for your fans to add on to that pressure. The last thing you need in a game that is 2-0, or in a game that is 2-1, in a game where Sekhukhune is pushing, in a game where Coach Siema has made attacking subs, and they're going at Onyango. The last thing you need is to go at Onyango as fans. He's already feeling the heat, but now the stands are also feeling the heat. And if you are a mistake-prone player, right? Rulani said that everybody makes mistakes. If you are a mistake-prone player at that moment, you could lose the game. You could lose your composure. You could make a key mistake. You could make a key pass that's wrong. You could do a lot of things wrong because everything is on top of you. This man has not played a lot of games this season. Now he comes in and people are making a noise. And I know I'm focusing on Onyango first, but also the team. Going into the Esperance game, Sundowns fans, guys, it's not the end of the world. It's a 1-0 lead that ES Esperance has, and they're going to Loftus, your home, where you've been effective. It's a 2-1 game versus Sekhukhune United in a league that is done. 22 games played. Oh, let me go back before the game. 21 games played, 16 wins, 5 draws, no losses, 37 goals scored, 7 against, 53 points. Why are you nervous? Why are you jeering players? Why are you sitting uncomfortably in your seat? Why Minyile? Sundowns is literally 2 games away from winning the league mathematically. 2 games from making sure that nobody can catch them. 2 games away. 7 games. 8 games away from being invincible. Never been done. Your record is sitting at 48 games, if I'm not mistaken. Unbeaten. Since Rulani took over last year, he's not lost a league game. Why jeer a player? Why go at players who are playing? Why make them nervous? Why boo? Why ask for changes? Why shout? It makes no sense. And it makes you guys sound a little bit spoiled. A little bit spoiled. None is never, so I get it, but it sounds a little bit spoiled. That, Daddy, I didn't get the Mercedes I wanted. Or the Mercedes I wanted, why did you get it in black? I wanted it in white. This team is doing incredibly well. And I hear Rulani's cry and his plea with the team, with the fans to say, guys, come on. Not now. So going into the Esperance game, just to round off the chat about the fans, going into the Esperance game, fans, relaxan. Relaxan. If TP Mazembe doesn't win the AFCON, doesn't win the CAF Champions League, you guys are through to a Club World Cup. Losing to Esperance is not the end of the world. Losing to Esperance, it's not the end of the world. Not that you will lose. Being uncomfortable versus Esperance is not the end of the world. Your team has showed you time and time again that they have the will they want. They have the will and they want the desire to want to go out and win these games. So come Friday, yes, it's a 1-0 lead that Esperance has and you guys are uncomfortable. But please support the team. I'm not even a Sundowns fan. And I listen to you guys sometimes and I'm like, guys, why are they shaking, guys? Why are these people shaking? What is it about this game that's making them get so nervous, you know?
bathi ukusheka ngesulu njalo why you qaqazeling my brother, relax go
Iyaqhaqhazela. Why?
ngiyaphinika wena uyale nabawuphinika dawuphinikisha futhi.
And while Rulani has his faults and there's tactical things and all of that stuff, but guys, support your team. Some of us support teams that have not seen a trophy in 9 years. Let alone a CAF. Okay, we saw a CAF final in 2021, but we have not seen a trophy. We have not seen a league since Stuart Baxter. Now you have everything right there at your disposal, and you guys choose to go and fight with the coach. You could fight to go and shout at players. Come on, guys. Come on. But also, to move on from that fan segment, just support your team. To move on from the fan segment, when you look at some of the things that Rulani said, now I want to have a grander conversation. Rulani came out and he said that he was explaining himself for a lot of things. He was explaining himself that, the teams, not every win is going to look beautiful. Not everything is going to be played well. Sometimes you need to have patience. He's got a 4-year contract at Sundowns. Give him the 4 years in order for him to go and win these trophies and do these things. Oh, the trophy, the Champions League. He came out and he said that he's tired, he's fatigued. He used the travel, he spoke about the travel, he spoke about all of that stuff. And for me, as valid as those things are, Coach, is this the time as well for you to be speaking about these things? Is this the time for you to be speaking about the eventualities should you not win the Champions League? To be speaking about how you still have a long contract and you still want to go do these things? To be pointing at Pitso and saying that it took Pitso this long for him to win? Is this the time, going into a crunch semi-final clash, where fans are feeling away, where the pressure is clearly on Sundowns, is this the time to be speaking about those things, as valid as they are? Coach Rulani, for me, is one of the best coaches. You guys know I wax lyrical about Coach Rulani a lot, over and over and over again. But it was so weird to hear someone who's usually supremely confident, someone who's usually top of the pops, controls the press conferences, but has the words, understands all of the stuff, shapes a narrative. It was so weird for me to hear him come out and, speak as though he's gonna lose on Friday. Speak as though he has to manage the expectations of Sundowns fans. Like he has to come out and be like, no, guys, don't get too excited. Don't get too excited. Masngadliwa. Ilai. Masngadliwa, I still have 3 years left of my contract in order to make this right. And it was so weird to hear Coach Rulani, of all people, coming out and saying those things. And, it got me thinking, I've got a video that I put out today, but I'll just touch on it. It got me thinking about where Sundowns actually stands in Africa. We know they're one of the big boys. We know they're in and amongst at least the quarters and the semis a lot. We know that a lot of teams across Africa fear is Sundowns. We know that Bafana is built off of this Sundowns back. We know that they're African Football League champions. But when we talk about the Champions League, is the Champions League a must for Sundowns to the point that they have to go out and win it? To the point where they can't breathe without winning this trophy. It's 8 years now, going to 10 years without winning that trophy. But being consistently the top, being king, regarded by Africa as the best team. What does Sundowns have to do in order to get that? And I'll admit, it's a bit unfair. It was triggered by Coach Rulani saying, give me 4 years to go and try and win this trophy. In my head, I thought, I don't think you would ever hear an Ahly coach saying that. I don't think you would ever hear a Wydad coach saying that. And I got you thinking, is this Rulani managing even those expectations? That if he doesn't win the Champions League, the fire will be so hot and so much that that thing he has to remind us that he's got a 4-year contract. He has to give himself a safety net. This is a Rulani that just 2 matches ago, I believe in the Champions League, came out and said, I have no doubt that we're winning this game. Possibly hinting even to having no doubt at winning the Champions League this year. Is it really that guy who I'm seeing making panic substitutions, in the dugout? Maybe getting his rotations wrong. Maybe picking the wrong players to come in. Maybe, getting overwhelmed by the moment, saying that he's tired, having to speak about having to get Red Bulls to get through things, having to speak like that, having to put down Ahly. He spoke about Ahly and he said the game that Ahly played was boring, he was falling asleep. Is this the same guy that we loved at the beginning of the season? That was looking at his critics, that was looking at the people who were questioning him, the teams who were coming out every day, the people who were saying they were benefiting, the people who were doing all that stuff, and he was looking at them and saying, who cares? The same guy who was defiant about all of the obstacles that were placed in front of him. Or, to give him the benefit of the doubt, is he learning that part of this coaching thing at this level, at this time, is to manage expectations? Part of it is to make sure that, we are accelerating at the right places. To make sure that we are not burning ourselves out when we get there. Is it part of managing what everybody's going to write? He knows and understands that the first thing that's going to come out is, should Rulani be fired? Here's a reminder, I've got a 4-year contract. Is Rulani the worst coach that you could have? He knows that when people start saying those things, he's showed you that Coach Pitso took how many years? 5, 6, 7 years to go and win the Champions League. He's showing you that, guys, we hold the record, Eliki. We're breaking it every time we play. To show that we've got the AFL in the pocket. We have a continental trophy with the best of the best in our pocket right now. So that maybe at the end of everything, when everybody's speaking, he's like, but guys, remember what this team is, and more importantly, remember who I am in the grand scheme of this team and what I've done So give me my 4 years. Is he emulating that guy that he loves? Pep Guardiola coming out and saying, oh, Arsenal are the best this year. Yo, Arsenal are the best. I don't know what I'm going to do in the next few games. How am I going to win this? How am I going to? You know, he plays the victim a lot. Is it maybe the next step of Rulani's evolution? This is what we're seeing right now? And maybe I'm also overemphasizing on this thing that maybe in the grand scheme of things doesn't mean much. It's so interesting, guys. These are the conversations that get me up. These are the things that I watch and I go, geez, man. Geez. I want to see what happens on Friday. And I'm hoping Mamelodi Sundowns wins. Because even though I am not a Mamelodi Sundowns fan, I enjoy it when there is a team that is taking everything, every single thing in our football by the horns, by the scruff of its neck. And they are showing us that if you are serious, this is what you can do. And more importantly, they're shining a light onto the other teams to say, guys, the gap is getting wider. Last year, Sundowns were just league winners. This year, again, they're about to win the league again. Again, they're about to go into a semi-final. They've won an AFL, a new competition. They're about to go to the Club World Cup while you guys are sitting in the PSL. Not even able to qualify for the Champions League. Abanye can't even look at preliminaries because they're not even there. Abanye can't even go to the Confed Cup. So the football fan in me needs Sundowns to keep their foot on our necks and to press even harder so that maybe those guys who are sitting in boardrooms at certain teams, who are sitting in boardrooms in the PSL, can look at themselves and say, yeah, maybe I need a Confed Cup, man. Maybe I need something yana, man, just in my pocket. So I need Sundowns to go out and win that game. I'm glad Sundowns wins these games. And the other part is very selfish, if I can just add on. It's a very selfish want. It's a selfish want because, you know, for every Chiefs record that they wipe off, I get to look at Chiefs and say, you're not going to be able to point at anything anymore. You're not going to be able to point back at things and say that, hey, this is us, this is our standard. You won't be able to do any of those things. Sundowns yanvala. Little by little. The unbeaten run was Chiefs' record. Gone. Erased. They're going even further. I don't even want to talk about the Champions League because we don't even have a star. They have a star. They're going for others. They're winning other tournaments. Look at Milford team. So selfishly, I need Sundowns to keep this up. They need to go for it. And like, win your 2 games. I know we're one of them. Win your 2 games so that you can end the league. But anyway, guys, that was the show. I'm gonna end it there. Remember that the show is on every day at 7 p.m. The reason why I'm solo one man, I'm calling back to the days when I used to do this one man, is because I was suspended from TikTok for a day, 24 hours. So that conflicted with the show time. Those who are watching, please subscribe. If you join the show on TikTok while I'm live at 7 p.m., you are able to add your voice to the show if you're following me, and you join one of the panels where we speak about these things, and I get to interrogate other people about how they feel. So please, 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 I'm not even going to say do me the favor. It's an incredible show. You're doing yourself a favor by watching that thing. If you want to have more conversations with me, we do have an official WhatsApp group. So those who are on YouTube right now, click subscribe, click on join, and you can gain access to the WhatsApp group where that's where we go back and forth a lot. I will be back in the regular format tomorrow at 7 p.m. But I do release other content. I released a couple of videos going deeper into the conversation that I had right now about Mamelodi Sundowns and how badly do they want this thing. I have a video that I released. Please go out and watch that video. It's a very interesting conversation, but also I did a live earlier in the day where I go into other conversations that I'm going to be releasing over the next couple of days. Please, guys, support. Thank you for those who stayed and watched the show. Thank you for those who have supported me up to this point. It is amazing. Go and support me on all of the other platforms, guys. Go and share the videos. Go and do this. As content creators that are here for you guys, we need your help. We're not a super sport. And we don't have platforms like this in SA football. We don't have platforms like this. So for us who are doing it and have to pay our rents and have to do all of those things, it really helps for you guys to support us. It doesn't always have to be money, but it can also be sharing, awareness, commenting, liking, doing all of those things. It really does go a long way. Thank you so much to my overthinkers. I'm signing off as your chief executive overthinker. Guys, I'll see you then tomorrow at 7 p.m. Bye, guys.